I'm Drew Thorwall, and this is Apologaming. On today's episode, we're looking at Metro Last Light for the Xbox 360, PS3, and PC. Metro Last Light takes place in a near-future, fictional Russia where atomic warfare and mutated creatures have devastated the Earth. Among the game's many biblically themed trailers is one called Genesis, which actually presents a surprisingly accurate paraphrase of Genesis chapter 1. But with one notable difference. Let's take a look.
In the beginning, God said, "Let there be light to burn away the darkness." On the second day, the sky was born, a majestic canopy for the earth. On the following day, God sculpted the bountiful earth and planted it with trees. With the fourth day, God split day from night and blessed the earth with the cycle of the seasons. Then God filled the sea with life and set forth the birds to soar in the skies. On the sixth day, God created glorious creatures. Chief of these were mankind. And on the seventh day, they say God rested. But God didn't rest. God left, or perhaps died.
He goes on to explain that he is humanity's last hope. Now, what's the first thing you do when you hear a video game quoting scripture? Go to the source. I've read this chapter, Genesis chapter 1, probably like a million times in my life. But still, there was something in the game that I didn't remember that they actually got right. When he talks about the seasons on day 4, I had to look that up, but it was in there. It's just a good reminder to always check the source, even if you think you know what it says. But the question is, what does the Bible actually say about day 7? The writer of this script must have had a Bible open right in front of him as he wrote this script. Genesis 2:2 says, "By the seventh day, God had finished the work he had been doing. So on the seventh day, he rested from all his work." Yet the narrator makes two very different claims. That God is either dead or gone. Now I'd have to check, but I don't think the main character in this game is Friedrich Nietzsche. So what gives? This kind of thinking actually reflects a certain view of God called deism, which basically believes that God is a watchmaker who winds things up and then leaves them alone to run their course. You might be surprised how many of the founding fathers of the United States that we herald as champions of Judeo-Christian values were actually deists. Thomas Jefferson in particular might appreciate the way Metro Last Light edits out the parts of the Bible they don't like. Now, flying in the face of this challenge are the very words of God himself. God's presence with his people throughout history, even today, is one of the greatest themes of the Bible. The Garden of Eden, the tent of meeting, the tabernacle, the temple, his chosen people, the church, his spirit in every believer, and ultimately, his presence with us in heaven. But the ultimate example of God with us is Jesus Christ. God became flesh and lived among us. Just check John chapter 1. The presence of God was part of his divine plan for salvation that he promised ever since the fall of humanity into sin all the way back in Genesis chapter 3. Contrary to the challenge of Metro, not only did God stick around, but it is he who made certain his plan for salvation even when we left him. Romans 5:8 says, "But God demonstrates his own love for us in this: while we were still sinners, Christ died for us.